This story was sent to me by Caressa McKnight, and this is a truly a wake-up call type of story. It's not one that needs the violins or anything like that. It's not a petty Pendergrass production by any means, but it's definitely a wake-up call. So in this picture, you see a woman by the name of Addie Fahy, or Hi, I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. And I can tell just by her name that she's most likely non-ADOS, but she definitely got a ADOS style wake-up call. So this woman lives or is trying to get a place in Bedstuy, Brooklyn. And she's a Harvard graduate, and she says she makes $90,000 a year. Not bad for somebody, you know, especially living up in New York, because the cost of living in New York is expensive. But she ran into one issue. She basically said that she got rejected a whole bunch of times every time she tried to get a rental in the neighborhood. And I'm just going to say this right now. It has nothing to do with her making $90,000 a year. It has nothing to do with her being a Harvard graduate. It has everything to do with how she looks. It's because she is a black woman. And one thing I have to point out to some black women, or a lot of black women, and with the minus of an exceptional few, is that racism can hit any one of you, whether you are ADOS or not. As you can see, that's what she's going through right now. But as I read through this article, you're going to find out that why I said she's getting her wake-up call. A Harvard graduate with a $90,000 a year salary, near perfect credit score, and no student debt keeps being denied Bedstuy if she doesn't have bad credit, and whom she fears don't like the color of her skin. It is so incredibly frustrating as a black woman to have checked off every box in my career, to literally be twice as good, to get half as much in the city, said Addie Fahy, or Fahy, age 28, identified by her middle name. I did everything you're supposed to do, and I can't find a place to live. Like I said, it has nothing to do with her degree. It has nothing to do with the fact that she went to Harvard. It has nothing to do with the fact she makes $90,000 a year and has good credit. They can bypass all of that, and they only see you for being you, for who you are. They see you and they see a stereotype. They see you and they see what they will assume to be problems. Although Bedstuy, Brooklyn was predominantly black about 10, maybe 20 years ago. But then once the gentrifiers moved in and they took over, and you know, you can thank the Barclays Center and the Brooklyn Nets for that. That was a huge way for them to get in. Addie, an education consultant who also organizes #Black Hour events to support black-owned businesses, told Pat she's lost about $500, points off her credit score, and hours away from work applying for 5 different apartments whose owners rejected what her broker called a pristine application. She's being discriminated against, said her real estate broker, Michael Jude. They say it doesn't seem as if she's fiscally responsible. Basically, they're saying that black people are terrible with money. That's basically what it is. They literally stereotyped her on the collective of us, even though she's showing proof that she's very fiscally responsible, and probably more fiscally responsible than some of the people that's already living there. But because she's black, they're afraid that if she moves in, that she'll bring the property value down, like she'll bring down the stock. It says, but a credit score and savings say something completely different. For a person of color, yes, this is a normal experience. There they go with that person of color thing. And I don't think that's her quoting that. I think that's her broker. Troubles began for Addie in July when she realized the lease on her 4-bedroom apartment was ending and decided she wanted to expand into a 2-bedroom of her own in Bedstuy or Crown Heights. Addie and Jude decided to get an early start because of problems she faced finding an apartment 3 years earlier. I faced a lot of racism when I applied for the apartment that I have now. She said, I knew this apartment search would be crazy. Addie was rejected twice from the first apartment she applied for because the landlord twice told her it was hers, then twice gave it away to someone else. Managers for the second apartment, a $2,200 a month Pacific Street 2-bedroom, told Addie she was a sure thing, then demanded 2 years of financial records, 6 months of bank statements, and hordes of other financial documents. But after Addie paid her $125 application fee, the story changed. I may not be fiscally responsible, the managers told Addie through her broker. I make well over 40 times the rent. What's the hesitation? The problem, the managers told Jude, was that Addie had only had 5 trade lines, long-term payment plans such as student loans and credit cards that build up your credit score, while owners insisted she needed 8. See how they just constantly move that goalpost? I would be demanding to see where that's written in those in them guidelines. That Addie's 5 trade lines had been open for more than 5 years. She never missed a payment, and it did not matter to them. That one that made absolutely no sense, said Jude. I've been in the business in a little, and I've never heard anything like that. Addie was next rejected by building managers from 3 Quincy Court, who called up her work office and asked her supervisor weird questions. They asked about my behavior. Does she work well in groups? They made it feel like I was applying for another job. It's been 6 weeks since Addie first started looking for an apartment, and she's still living in her apartment on a month-to-month basis now that the lease is lapsed, and saving up to buy a home of her own someday. Addie's lost money and time and gain in extreme frustration for the lack of oversight on the real estate market she argues is actively working to push her out of her neighborhood. There you go. That's why they want her gone. Not only do they feel like she or someone like her will bring the property level down, but they are gentrifying. They don't want one sight of blackness in that sea of mayo. That's really all it boils down to. It's demoralizing. I have every privilege except white privilege. If it's hard for me, I can't imagine how impossible it must be for other people. Impossible is the right word, according to Jude. Jude said he's shown homes to countless people of color whose applications were rejected because the landlord was looking to make it a hip area, as one manager told him. Jude also says he's seen landlords illegally discriminate against applicants who will use government-funded programs to pay their rent. And because New York law mandates he show apartments to anyone who asks him or face a $10,000 fine, Jude often is sending clients to apartments he knows they'll never get. It's frustrating, said Jude. I see this on a daily basis. Jude believes the answer is stronger oversight on landlords and laws that prohibit landlords from hiding behind anonymous limited liability companies that allow them to duck fines and fees. And until the laws change, Jude believes people of color need to stop renting in New York by either buying their own homes or leaving altogether. Black excellence means little to nothing without ownership, said Jude. The next place you move into should be your own. But Addie had another idea. She's going to keep looking for a new rental, but she also wants to connect with and unite Bedstuy neighbors who may have faced similar difficulties finding a home. It's hard to prove racism. I can't prove it, but I can talk about it. Actually, you can't prove racism. It's really not that hard to do. Nowadays, if you really want to prove racism, all you really need is a cell phone. She says, I want to know how many other people who have experienced this and what other barriers they face and would they like to talk about it. I didn't want to be in this situation, said Addie. I just wanted a place to stay. Well, she, like I said, received her wake-up call. And it's good that she's figuring this out now. Hopefully she'll be successful in finding her own place. But yeah, they're gentrifying. They don't want her there. They don't care how good her credit is or how much money she makes or the fact that she went to Harvard. It's the fact that she's black. That's really all it boils down to. And the crazy thing about it is, as this gentrification thing continues to grow, that's going to be the reality for a lot of people who look like us. Y'all let me know what you think about this down in the comments, and I will talk to you in the next one.